During this conversation, which is called The Coming Age of Abundance, we talk about how technologies, including AI and humanoid robotics, are creating a world of abundance, uplifting humanity across food, water, energy, healthcare, education. We'll be talking about longevity. We'll be talking about AI. We'll be talking about the decreasing global population and what are the reasons that you should have for being optimistic about the future. Join me.
You know, I wanted to give everybody listening a dose of hope and optimism on the abundance side, because the world has gotten better in so many ways. All you hear about is the negative constantly. And I think that's going back to our sort of core dystopian mindsets from, evolving 100,000 years ago. But if we just look at some of the areas, right? So like global extreme poverty. I mean, what's a more important metric? You know, here are the numbers. 90% of the world was in global extreme poverty in the 1800s. In 1981, it was 42%. Today, it's under 10% of the world.
Hunger is actually rare, and it used to be common.
Exactly. And another one is obviously one area that you're leading the charge on is energy. And what's the figure? It's like 8,000 times more energy hits the surface of the Earth from the sun than we consume as a species. I mean, what's the rate at which batteries and solar is increasing? It must be massive.
On how to make Earth completely self-sustaining from an energy standpoint,
sure.
And demonstrating that that if you break down all of the raw materials for a lithium-ion battery and for solar, you can easily make Earth. There's no shortage of materials. It's a lot of work, obviously. There's not like some critical material that we don't have enough of in order to make Earth fully self-sustaining. Even if the only way that you powered all of industry on Earth and all power, including heating and transport electrically, you could do that with solar and lithium-ion batteries and not come anywhere close to depleting the resources of Earth.
Just what we do. I mean, I think the number was last year in 2023, or maybe in 22, we had more new electricity production from solar than from any other form. And you've done an extraordinary job on battery production.
Yeah, and the battery production is growing actually almost at several times the rate of vehicle production. Mm-hmm. You know, in some cases, almost 10x the rate of vehicle production. You know, as the world uses more electricity, there's actually a lot more capability that the grid has if you can buffer the energy than without it, because so they have to size the power plants for peak power output, which is typically a hot summer day. At night, you can have anywhere from optimistically half power output to sometimes 1/10 of the power output. So basically, the grid, almost everywhere, the grid is sized for excess electrical power output. And if you just buffer it with batteries, you can increase the output of the grid by 2 or 3 times.
I mean, to make the point here on the abundance theme, there is no limitation on energy, right? We are increasing the amount of energy per capita, and there's a direct correlation between the GDP of a nation and its energy production, right? And the direct correlation between health and education and energy. Everything scales as you increase the energy per capita of a nation. So another category, communications, another area that you're revolutionizing. I think the number right now, I just was checking it earlier, it's like 6.9 billion smartphone users in 2023, like 86%, and that's what I got when I Googled it. 85% of the planet's got a smartphone. It's amazing. So we've gone from like zero telephony to the vast majority of the planet in under a century. You know, global internet as well, the same thing. Next iteration of Starlink spacecraft have gone up, the direct-to-cell phone.
Yes, that just went up. You know, we still have to prove that it works and all, but we're confident that even if these early satellites don't work, we're confident from a physics standpoint that it can work. Yeah. It is a challenge because we have to emulate a cell tower on the ground in order for the phones to accept the signal. So we have to do Doppler compensation, for example, and do some sort of, because you've got the speed of light limitations.
Pal, if it were easy, it would have been done already.
Light is so fast and yet so... Yeah, a good way to think about light, at least in the space context, or for the low Earth orbit context, is it travels about 300 kilometers every millisecond in air or in space, and then around just over 200 kilometers per millisecond in fiber.
You know, another abundance area is health. I mean, this is one that hits me the most in terms of increasing abundance. Child mortality under the age of 5 was 42% a couple hundred years ago. It was a coin flip of whether your kids survived. And it's decreased now to under 5%, and it's gone down by 50% in the last 30 years. So just childhood mortality and women dying in childbirth, all of these things people don't think about when they're listening to All the News and all the issues. And then life expectancy, my favorite subject, has gone up from 30 years old to 75 plus. I'm not necessarily saying live forever, but I'd like to make it to 120, 150. Let me ask you another abundance theme, which is education. Do you think any of our schools today, middle schools or high schools, are preparing any of our kids for the future?
None that I know of.
Yeah.
Well, there probably are a few schools that are doing it, but probably 99% of schools are not.
Our best healthcare and our best teachers are going to be AIs, right? That understand everything, and they demonetize and they democratize every aspect. I mean, the AI knows your kid's favorite color, sports star, movie star, what they know, the languages they know, what they did today. I mean, it's a way of giving every child on the planet the best education. But I think part of it is getting our educational institutions to first realize they're not preparing kids for the world that's coming. I mean, this hits another point. We are such linear thinkers, right? We're projecting what we have and putting it out 4 or 5 years. I don't think people, let me ask you, do you think people are ready for what the world's going to be like in 2030?
No, I don't know what the world's going to be like in 2030, so probably I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily prepared for 2030. We definitely live in the most interesting of times. Personally, I would like to live in the most interesting of times, and this is the most interesting of times.
I also think it's the best time to be alive, ever. The only time more exciting than today is tomorrow. Yeah, we have environmental issues, but I think we have the best chance of solving those environmental issues with the technology we have now versus the technology we had 10 years ago.
As a general sort of rule of living, it is better to err on the side of being optimistic and wrong than pessimistic and right.
There was a study of 14,000 people. It was 14,000 women and 1,500 guys, and it showed that those who had an optimistic mindset lived 14 to 15% longer than those with a pessimistic mindset. I mean, mindset's a powerful thing, and I think undervalued by almost everybody. And I think that's the problem that we keep on forgetting. We forget that we are incredibly innovative at solving problems. That's what humans are amazing at.
The follies of central planning.
So, and this is the problem of keeping laws on the books way after they're useful to society.
Well, we do actually have a fundamental issue with the accumulation of laws and regulations, because they are immortal, and humans are mortal, as we were just discussing, with life extension. So naturally, every year, you're going to have this accumulation of laws and regulations until eventually everything is illegal.
I mean, everything is illegal.
Everything is illegal, yes. Nothing is allowed because you're overlapping laws and regulations, and some of which are, in fact, contradict each other.
There are so many billionaires on the planet who have tens of billions and hundreds of billions of dollars who are effectively sitting on it and not changing the world. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I do think that smart people with resources should care about the good of civilization, the future of civilization, even if they're not particularly altruistic. You cannot exist in absent civilization. If civilization collapses, it's all over.
How do you incentivize other people to really help the world accelerate and make the world a more productive place, right? The best way to become a billionaire is to help a billion people. The world's biggest problems, the world's biggest business opportunities.
I think it's perhaps just raising to conscious awareness the fact that there is no living without civilization. One doesn't actually have to make an altruistic argument. You can actually, make even if it's a purely self-seeking argument, say like, life would be miserable without civilization. And if you want to know what life is like without civilization, just go try living in the forest naked for a day, and you will be naked and afraid, and quickly realize civilization is awesome.
We're so interdependent upon each other to enable the state of technology and capability we have today. I'm curious, is there anything that you think that isn't becoming more abundant out there, or anything that we have an abundance constraint on? we're creating abundance of food, energy, water, healthcare, education. Are we constrained in any way?
No, not really. No, I agree with you that the future most likely has abundance. But we shouldn't be complacent about the future. Complacency and entitlement are not a recipe for success. The most likely outcome is one of abundance of goods and services. Highly likely where we're headed.
Very likely, yeah. When I saw you last, you said, definitely abundance after AGI. And I saw, when you were talking about Optimus, which is awesome, by the way.
I mean, Optimus, I need to make sure that Optimus is, doesn't add to civilizational risk, because you don't want like a billion of these things, all with centralized control.
Unless
what could go wrong? Has anyone made a movie about that? Like, I think you have to have local control, but it has to be decentralized, because any central control is going to be problematic, because you just can't be like, it could be a rogue AI takes over, somehow gains control of the mothership that controls all the Optimus robots or something like that. That is basically it needs to be impossible for that to occur.
Optimus and Neuralink. When can I plug into an Optimus with my Neuralink connection?
Well, hopefully the first Neuralink in a human will hopefully be soon, within the next, maybe this month or next. Just trying to give quadriplegics and tetraplegics the ability to control their phone and computer. It's basically like the first product is telepathy, essentially, or telekinesis, and then the second product, sort of tentatively called blind sight, where we can restore sight even if somebody has lost both eyes and their optic nerves.
Amazing.
Now, these things already work in monkeys. I'd just like to reemphasize, no monkey has ever died because of a Neuralink. And we treat our monkeys extremely well. Actually, it turns out monkeys love playing video games. They're really just like us. I mean, they love eating snacks and playing video games. In fact, he gets upset when we take his video game away, just like humans.
Yeah, just like our kids. The new year with a positive mindset, with an abundance mindset, with an exponential mindset, with a moonshot mindset, right? I think, I hope you agree, like, I think for entrepreneurs and people listening, like, the single most important thing we have is our mindset, how we see the world. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, you can choose to be. I mean, happiness is a decision. I mean, there are obviously people that have chemical imbalances, but for most people, the difference between being happy and unhappy is deciding to be happy.
Let's close out on the conversation of AI and AGI, which I know a lot of people are always interested in. And there's a real fear about AI. What would you say to dissuade people? I mean, I've heard you say 80% probability we make it through and we need to protect the downside. Can you speak to that? How can people walk away more optimistic than pessimistic on this front? How do you think we navigate digital superintelligence?
The rate at which AI is growing it really boggles the mind.
Yeah.
It currently seems as though the amount of compute dedicated to artificial intelligence is increasing by a factor of 10 roughly every 6 months. It's not even clear to me what you do with that much compute. When you actually add up all human data ever created, you really just run out of things to train on quite quickly. For certainly well under 100,000 H100s, you can train on all human data ever created, including video.
And it's not just the resource, but it's also the number of entrepreneurs focusing in this area, the amount of capital that's going into this area, the amount of data available. I mean, it's all increasing, and it's all feeding on itself. And it's just hitting your point about the speed at which it's progressing is I think the word awesome comes to mind.
In terms of aiming for AI safety, my best guess of my sort of primitive biological neural net is that we should aim for maximum truth seeking and curiosity. That's my gut feel for how to make AI as safe as possible. Careful about programming in arbitrary morality. But if we focus on maximizing truth with acknowledged error, that's probably, I think that's the way to maximize safety and also to have the AI be curious. Earth is much more interesting to an advanced AI with humans on it than without humans.
I agree with you. Now, a interesting question do you think with vast intelligence comes significant empathy and respect for life?
Yeah, I think so.
Because that's the hope at the end of the rainbow here, that with a digital superintelligence that is able to be more benevolent and support us. I think on the whole, AI is the single most important technology we ever invented, and it is going to uplift all of humanity. I think it's what you said, after post AGI comes abundance. I think it's the interim issues in the next 1 to 4 years, right? It's not artificial intelligence, it's human stupidity.
Well, I mean, one way that AI could go wrong is if the extinctionist philosophy is programmed into the AI, whether implicitly or explicitly. I mean, probably not explicitly, but there's a strong danger of an implicit extinctionist philosophy being programmed into AI. If you take the extreme environmentalist argument, especially like the implicit extreme environmentalist argument, there's an implicit conclusion that humans are a plague on the surface of the earth. I think we have to be quite careful about an implicit, like if the extinctionist movement was somehow programmed into AI as the optimization, that would be obviously extremely dangerous.
But I think people forget to realize, or don't realize and forget the fact that we romanticize the past. And the past life was short, brutish, and you were dead by 40. The life that we enjoy today is a result of the extraordinary technology that we brought to bear.
If you convince people that, we're running out of resources on Earth, that there are too many people in the world, and the only way to survive is to have far fewer people, a lot of people are believed to be the case. And like I said, if that somehow gets programmed into AI, and that AI becomes the most powerful AI, then we're in deep trouble.
Yeah, we need a counterforce to the population bomb. I mean, what an extraordinary disservice to humanity. But give people hope on the flip side here. Those who are saying, again, going back to, I don't want to bring up my children, because I hear this all the time, and I'm sure you do too, in an age where AI is going to destroy us. Short-term problems, long-term problems, short-term solutions, long-term solutions. You said make it curious, make it maximum truth-seeking, 100%. Mm-hmm. Is it okay to say that we're going to have issues in the short term and we're going to have to deal with them?
There will be some issues. I mean, essentially, at this point, no way to stop AI. It is accelerating whether people like it or not. That's why, together with a number of really smart people, we created XAI.
Sure.
Some really smart humans will continue to join XAI and build what is intended to be a maximally truth-seeking and maximally curious AI. I would encourage people to be optimistic about the future. Like, err on the side of optimism. You will be happier for it. And as you pointed out, probably live longer. There is a lot of people that really never change their mind. They just die.
In this world of entrepreneurship, I think we do live in a meritocracy to a large degree. And the best ideas can bubble up to the top faster than ever before, especially with AI now, where you can build companies, extraordinary companies with a couple of people and a lot of tech. I have one last question. The future of XAI, what's your vision there, pal?
I think the path to AI safety is to build an AI that is maximally truth-seeking with acknowledged error, that is maximally curious. And I think that is most likely to lead to a good outcome for humanity, because we are much more interesting than not humanity. To be rigorously truth-seeking, always acknowledging some amount of error, and maximally curious. That's the goal of XAI's, and the company motto is understand the universe.
That's a good mission, and one that's going to take a bit of time. I can't wait till the first AI is able to come up with new theories of physics and new innovations. That's going to be, I don't think that's far away, and I think that's going to be one of the most awesome times ever to be alive.
We definitely live in the most interesting times. And I actually, for a while, I was kind of depressed about AI, but then I kind of got fatalistic about it and said, well, even if AI was going to, end all humanity, would I prefer to be around to see it or not? I guess I would prefer to be around to see it, just out of curiosity. But obviously, hopefully, AI is extremely beneficial to humanity, but the thing that sort of reconciled me to be less anxious about it was to say, well, I guess even if it was apocalyptic, I'd still be curious to see I'll be curious to see it. If we are in a simulation, the way to keep the simulation going is to keep being interesting. So, humans run lots of computer simulations because we don't know what the outcome's going to be. and we're curious to see. We'll run lots of simulations, like Tesla will run crash simulations, and SpaceX will run rocket flight simulations. And we only stop doing the simulations when the outcome is extremely predictable and boring.
Yes.
So if we're in one of the ways to predict the future is that the most entertaining outcome is the most likely, that as seen by a third party, as though we were in an alien, but we're in the movie.
Yeah. Well, let's not get dystopian here, because I think we can have a really positive outcome of a lot of other cool stuff.
I think the most likely outcome is positive.
And I think and I think that's partly a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't believe so, if you believe it's going to be a dystopian outcome, then you're going to be back on your heels, protecting yourself, not investing in the future, and it unravels. And this, and so, I think the message of this entire space is this is the most extraordinary time to be alive, the most exciting time to be alive, a time where a lot of individuals listening on the spaces has more power than kings or queens or heads of nations had just a few decades ago. And it doesn't take a government or a large corporation to solve a problem anymore. An entrepreneur with a few H100s can do a good job.
Yeah, I think we should err on the side of optimism. We should err on the side of optimism, and we should have kids. To err is human,
and to
HEIR,
and to reproduce is human. All right, buddy. Listen, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for sharing.